Hey, how's it going, guys? Today I wanted to do a video on my latest keyboard, the Neo Ergo, and I wanted to try something different, right? This is a tinted Alice type layout, and a big reason why I wanted it is because I don't really have keyboards with arrow keys, and I've been playing a lot more MapleStory these days, which rely on arrow keys for movement. So yeah, let's get into my experience. So getting into the build experience, I think Neo, QWERTY Owl Labs, whoever you want to put this under, did a very good job of making this keyboard super simple to build in. If you've built any keyboard previously, you'll probably have a very easy time with this board. Just to kind of show, here I have the tri-mode PCB with a polypropylene plate and obviously my switches, which we'll go over in a bit, and keycaps, stabilizers, right? It's super simple. The gaskets are also very simple to put on. I will say the gaskets on the outer corners are a little bit like flimsy in terms of they can fall off pretty easily. I've had a couple fall off in the process of building, but overall, not really an issue. And what's really nice is there is a daughter board inside here underneath what they call the kernel, I believe. And we have these pogo pins and magnets. And you just have to align it up. And once you do that, the keyboard will light up by default. And yeah, you're connected. And obviously, the process for the other side is pretty much the same. One thing I should mention though is if you do have the tri-mode version, you do have this little switch in the middle. So if you do want to use it wirelessly, you do want to turn that on. I just leave it on all the time because being able to flip between wired mode and wireless modes super quickly has been really helpful, which I'll get into more of why in a bit. I also really like how the top case uses this ball catch system. This is my first time using it. I've heard of it before, but first time actually using it myself. Super simple. You just kind of line it up, give it a good push, and it snaps in. And I did worry about it being like not super secure, but it's actually pretty on there, especially on a heavy board like this. Obviously, I wouldn't grab the top case and shake it, but it definitely feels like one solid piece. This super simple build process does allow this tenting, does have a subtle tent in it, and I actually really like it. Usually I like a very drastic tent in my split keyboards, but this is perfectly fine as well. Now moving on to the performance of this keyboard, I was a little bit worried because my previous wireless keyboard build, my first one, was the Zoom 75. I think it was batch 3, and I don't know if it was just my batch or my copy, but the performance on that board absolutely sucked. My first time working with a tri-mode PCB, and even after firmware updates, it still just doesn't work well. So like I want to get rid of the board, but I don't want to sell a board that doesn't work properly. And so yeah, that's just been kind of sitting around, but it is what it is. But I'm very happy to say that the wireless performance on this board and wired have been pretty much flawless. There is one qualm that I have, but I don't think that's the fault of this board. I really like how they made it super simple to switch between the different modes of the keyboard. So just pressing function and tab. Now it's in wired mode. Now it's in Bluetooth, which has its own set of hotkeys associated with it. And now it's in 2.4 gigahertz mode. I didn't get to use the Bluetooth mode too much because I don't have Bluetooth on my computers and I don't really like to use it if I do. But wired mode and 2.4 gigahertz mode both worked generally flawlessly. The one hiccup that I have is in 2.4 gigahertz mode on Linux. When I launch a game through Proton, the inputs tend to kind of break, but I don't think I'd really fault the board for this. I think it has to do with how Proton's handling the inputs. So that's its own thing. I'll figure it out eventually. But yeah, performance on this board has been amazing during work in Windows and this and that. No issues whatsoever. There are a lot of other things that I like about this board as well. For instance, the customizability. You can have, say, a split backspace like I have here, or a full one. You can have a stepped caps lock. You can have a variety of different spacebar sizes. And I think that's really cool. It's not something that I tend to see super often. So, very awesome to see. And especially this cluster in particular. I think I mentioned before that I've been playing a lot of MapleStory. So, having access to these arrow keys was a big like deal maker for me. Now onto a couple things that I dislike about this keyboard. The big one being this keyboard isn't fully compatible with VIA in the sense that you can't just plug in this board and expect VIA to recognize it. You actually have to load in the key map file and make changes that way. It's not a huge deal if you're someone who just kind of sets it and forgets it, which is how I am. But if you change your layout quite often, might be something to consider because you'll have to save a bunch of these different files and it can be a little bit annoying. Another thing that comes to mind is that this board runs QMK, which I get it. QMK is super familiar. Everyone's used to it. It shows up in the vast majority of custom boards. However, for a wireless board, I like to see at least like an option for ZMK. I'm sure you could do it, but having kind of like a pre-built firmware that you could just flash onto it would be super cool because that's going to be a lot more power efficient. And frankly speaking, there's like no way to gauge battery on this board as far as I'm aware. But in my experience, the battery doesn't last super long, at least relative to like other modern peripherals like the wireless mouse or like a pre-built wireless keyboard or things like that. So that is something to consider. Battery life isn't a super like strong suit of this keyboard. It is a nice to have. And if you just have this planted on your one desk, I think that's going to be fine. But if for whatever reason you're lugging this heavy thing around, it's not light. That is something to consider. Another thing I will mention is that I got the optional wrist rest. And first off, like where my hands sit, you can see it, right? There's that. But also cherry wood isn't a great choice in my opinion. It dents pretty easily, so unless if you literally only use your computer at your desk, which I do assume that a lot of people do, but if you're a gremlin like me where you eat at your desk, you have like tea or coffee at your desk and this and that, right? It dents pretty easily. So if you do have an accidental bonk, this could happen, right? I have this bit of a dent here, and you can see the natural wood come out a little bit. I would have preferred like a stronger wood, like maple, because Canada, AAO. But yeah, like this wrist rest is super nice. I really like how it fits pretty much perfectly. There are some small gaps, but whatever. But aesthetically, after this dent, I get a little bit worried about the long-term wear and tear. But overall, I've been really enjoying using this keyboard. This keyboard has been sitting on my desk ever since I got it about a little over a month ago at this point. And so, yeah, I've been really enjoying it. Any negatives that I mentioned earlier are ones that don't affect me too much. They do come with like minor annoyances, but for the most part, not super annoying for me. Might be more annoying to other people. So, thought I'd mention those. I also really like the little innovations that Neo Lab QWERTY Keys implements into their keyboards, like the ball catch system, although I think this is the only Neo board that uses it. Maybe a durability thing, but we'll have to see. Also, things like using the pogo pins to connect the PCBs to the daughter board rather than a JST connector, which JST connectors are honestly, for the most part, fine for me. Some people find them fragile, so this solution kind of gets rid of that. Super cool, super user friendly, really like it, and lets you hide away that daughter board under that kernel piece so it doesn't get damaged. Before wrapping up, let's get into a sound test just to go over my configuration in terms of performance things. I am using all the foams in this case. I did find that sounded a little bit pingy without them. I'm using the polypropylene plate and I'm using Gateron Smoothie switches. I've tried a couple of different switches in here and these just felt and sounded the best of what I have, in my opinion. I'm using the stock stabilizers, which are just clip-in stabs. Those are lubed as usual with the usual stuff. And I have Osume Strawberry Milk keycaps with the Korean sub-legends. Anyways, that's going to be it for this video. If you have any questions about anything that I've mentioned in this video, just let me know down in the comments below. I'll try to get back to you as soon as possible. I'll also leave the names of everything down in the description without any affiliate links. Just search it yourself, quick Google search, because I don't do affiliate links. I'm still a very small channel. And yeah, I do have a few videos planned. Hopefully won't have these huge gaps between videos moving into the second half of the year. We will have to see. Anyways, thanks for watching, and until next time, goodbye.
Bye.